Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to all of you on behalf of APAC News Network to the third Global Education and Skills Conclave. This is a 3 day conference, and today is the second day. We had the inaugural session yesterday, which was attended by senior policymakers from the government side, both from the central as well as the states, different states, then different education bodies like the AICTE, CBSE, Quality Council, etc. We had a lot of technology leaders working in the education sector present, and this time we are planning it across two parallel tracks on higher education and school education. So yesterday we had six panel discussion, and today till now already we have had another six today. So the idea is to discuss around different facets of education in both higher education and school education, especially in the new normal as we go towards more a blended learning kind of model in this post-pandemic scenario. Before I introduce the very esoteric set of panelists who are present today, maybe it would be pertinent for me to just talk about the partners for this program, without whose support organizing a conference of this magnitude and scale would not have been possible. So we have as our state partners the Education Department of Government of Andhra Pradesh, Government of Telangana, Government of Gujarat, Government of Uttarakhand. We have as government supporting partners the Department of Science and Technology, AICTE, Quality Council of India. We have Innovation Norway as our country partner, Dell and Intel as our presenting partners, Microsoft as a technology partner, ViewSonic as a co-powering partner, Samsung as a display partner, Fortinet as a security partner, Crestron as the gold partner, Yanmark Technologies, Finance Peer, and MapMy India as associate partners, APJ Education as education partner, UniApply as a school admission partner, Chitkara University as a university partner, the Jaipuria Group of Schools as a group school partner, and Global India Schools, Glendale Academy, and Central Public Schools as our school partners. Now, it's my privilege to introduce the set of panelists who will participate in the discussion. So we have with us Dr. Shivram Khara, Vice Chancellor of Sharda University. Welcome, Dr. Khara. We have with us Professor Dr. Tabrez Ahmed, Vice Chancellor of GD Goenka University. Welcome, Dr. Ahmed. We have with us Shri Ravi Kumar Jain, Director of Symbiosis Hyderabad. Welcome to the show, Dr. Ravi. We have with us Dr. Rana Singh, CEO IIIE Cell from Sanskriti University. Welcome to the discussion, Dr. Singh. We have with us Dr. T. Shashi Prabha, Vice Chancellor of Satyabhama Institute of Science and Technology from Chennai. Welcome, Dr. Shashi Prabha. We have with us Professor Supriya Pattanayak, Vice Chancellor of Centurion University of Technology and Management from Odisha. Welcome, Professor Pattanayak. We have with us Dr. B. Sandil Kumar, Dean and Director, Health Sciences, Vinayaka Missions Research Foundations, deemed to be university. Welcome, Dr. Sandil. And we have with us Mr. Devi Prasad Baral, who is the CTO of Finance Peer. Welcome to the show, Mr. Baral. With that esoteric set of panelists, today's topic is how technology can act as a catalyst for active professional learning and for R&D. So the first question, and I would like to start maybe with Dr. Khara, to make the research in universities more industry oriented, what are the ways that you would suggest that we can streamline the PhD programs more to make them industry oriented and perhaps even reduce the duration of those PhD programs? What all measures can be done according to you?
Thank you, Rajnish. Thank you very much for giving me opportunity to participate in this virtual platform of this panel discussions of a very important topic, the technology catalyst for active professional learning, research and development. See, we have explored here in Sarda University as well as from the faculty members, those who have done the PhD work or got the degree from various institutes. Basically, it is found that Indian research, PhD research, basically focused on theory. Somehow they are publishing the papers and fulfilling the requirement of the PhD and then getting the degree. So, also in one of the occasion, Professor Ram Gopal Rao in the Sarda University addressed that there is a need in India to make the PhD research product oriented. So we need to understand the fundamentals. For example, in our solar research, solar material research cell, Center of Excellence, there also I have seen the people are doing the research and they are very much focused on the paper. But the chemical department, they are working on the material to fabricate, to come out with the solar material, and then solar material is tested with the physics department to characterize the material for solar cell. And then the chemistry and this physics department, they are working in isolation. And then the electrical department also, the solar cells then embedded and make the solar panel, and then they harvest the power. Lot of practical aspects are there. So ultimately the research is going on where to fulfill and earn the eligibility for getting the degree, but it is not culminating towards the product in many of the cases, but in some of the cases it is happening. So for this, the PhD research, this approach need to change. And that's why we have here established a lot of multidisciplinary research cells recently. One is medical science and engineering department. They have formed on artificial intelligence based medical image processing to come out with a very diagnostic real software for diagnostic purpose, as well as some of the medical devices to be developed, taking the input from the medical and science and engineering. And then the third-party testing, the sophisticated, the central instrumentation facility, it is not for the PhD study. How the real problem we can integrate with the industry and then work on the industry problem, and then we work on the product or the industry problems. We give the solutions. Therefore, you are very much correct that that technology somehow that in that research facilities to be created in the university, either we collaborate with the industry and then or with the R&D and procure and have those type of resources. And with the collaboration, some of the resources can be made available in the institute and some of the resources can be availed in the industry. Therefore, if this type of industry research approach is to be made successful, specifically in India, then strong industry collaboration is required, specifically for the research or these problems. Those who are working PhD scholars specifically on the problem, they should know ultimately how these problems solutions can be converted into product service, so that it can ultimately go to the society. So we are working on this, and in this guideline we have established number of center of excellence. And also recently, keeping in view of that, we have established the virus research lab in Sarda University. This is the first time in private university we have a very sophisticated virus research lab we have established, and we'll be working on virus and then he provides the solutions.
Okay.
So, in the summary, I will say that uh, we need to take the industry problem in industry collaborations, and in the university also, uh, we need to define a big problem, and at least PhD scholars should understand that in the big problem where they are working and how his solution is going to contribute towards the solutions in the real life problem or real life society. So this is the point I wanted to put up here. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you. In fact, about the industry collaboration point, we will elaborate on that point later. I'll come next to Dr. Ahmed, and I'll put the same question to you in terms of what are your opinion on basically streamlining the PhD programs to make them more industry oriented. Dr. Ahmed.
Thank you, Rajneesh, for asking very relevant question regarding the relevance of PhD program with industry. I fully agree with the views given by Dr. Sivaram Khara about that making the relevance of the PhD program. But see, actually, what happens in India, those who do PhD, they mostly do for academic purposes. So they feel that once they will PhD, they will be getting promotion, they will get increments. But what I feel that PhD should be kind of a different ball altogether, because the when somebody will go for higher studies, especially for PhD, he should target about solving a problem, and that problem should be a great problem, trying to help the country, trying to help the globally, because somebody will do a research and then he will be writing a thesis. After 5 years time, he will just submit something and then he will be given a degree. Ultimately, what is the outcome target is not to earn a degree. Outcome target is that to solve a problem, and that is going to help the public at large, to the industry or globally. So first thing is that we have to ensure that anybody going to do a PhD, he should try to do a lot of kind of the analysis of the situation. He will do a lot of survey of literature, and he will be trying to find out a very serious problem where he is going to really solve the current issues or the coming issues. uh, what happens generally, people will not be going to that level, because ultimately, for example, what I am saying, that anybody is going to do a PhD, he should try to create some intellectual property. And then, I'm talking about the innovations and talking about the kind of inventive step. I'm talking about the industry relevance. So in fact, unless and until you'll understand that what is the current research happening globally and what is the level of research. For example, anybody who is going to get a patent, he will be submitting the first application, he will get 1 year time to submit the second application. And then if it is realized that the problem you are going to solve and trying to get the patents, already somebody granted a patent, it means that you will not be going to get any market benefits, any commercial benefits. So what happens in India, even lot of industries, lot of universities, what they do, even once they are going to award the even projects, even the seed projects, they are not going to verify the situation, whether what is the level of research. For example, because India has signed the Patent Cooperation Treaty, anybody from India has done some quality research, he can apply for a single application, PhD application. He can apply throughout all member countries. So if anybody has done a very high level research, he can be granted patent throughout the world. So my point is that what we can do, we can really allow only those topics where is real problem is there and no patent is granted and no further funding is there, no research are happening. But it require a lot of kind of the analysis of the current situation, then we able to understand the gap. Second thing is that already we're talking about the innovation and the shells. Through this cell, what can happen? Industry can have good connect with the kind of the universities, and then industry will be able to tell what is the problem happening in the industry, or otherwise, university academia can tell us that what is the future about any problem, and they are trying to solve those problems. So my point is that if anybody is going to get a PhD, he must try to get an intellectual property, whether it is design, whether it is a patent, whether it is a copyright. For a copyrights, Generally what happens, what you submitted record, that is the, because it is a kind of expression, you will always get a copyright. Only challenge is regarding the patent. So unless and until you are trying to have the very innovative problem and going to solve and get some solutions, you will not be able to get the patents. The other thing is that why industry is important, because sometimes what happens, university will be able to provide a kind of research and PhD is granted, but ultimately you require money. Otherwise, the research will not be commercialized. And then we require the angel investors or require the industry to come forward to take up the problem and try to commercialize. Because if you do not commercialize within 3 years, then it may also be acquired by the government, or it may be also taken over by the any other groups, or somebody also may apply for the compulsory licensing. So it requires a lot of overhauling of the entire program, and also it depends on the PhD committee that how they're going to approve the problem for the research. And in that case, if you do proper kind of structuring of the PhD program, it is going to be lot of value addition and going to solve the real problems, and where we can do creation of lot of IPR, plus also get a lot of leverage. With these few words, these are my thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ahmed. Very pertinent points you raised. I'll come next to Dr. Jain, and with the same question, I'd like to add one rider here. Obviously, the motive is how do you look at streamlining the PhD and other research programs. But other than that, a typical problem in Indian research is we complain that often they are not very industry oriented or industry focused. Not really very outcome based, and often it's just a research being done for research sake. So, how can academic institutions collaborate with other global institutions of repute, ally with them, so that our ecosystem of research culture is fostered better? Dr. Jain.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much, Rajneesh ji, and very warm good afternoon, very warm afternoon to all the esteemed panelists here. It's a very loaded question, and in fact, the theme of the session itself is pretty loaded when we say technology intervention or technology as a catalyst for active professional learning, research and development being the central focus. PhD program, I mean, simply put, the objective is to create knowledge, which is one of the major, I would say, region the three of a university. University exists not just to disseminate knowledge, but to create knowledge. And PhD programs have always been, designed to serve that purpose. And fine, fortunately, unfortunately, we are talking about Indian context. PhD as a program is typically ending up into one of the compliance requirement, or some requirement for employment purpose rather than solving problem. Ideally, and ideally, a PhD program should be, or a PhD scholar should be working with a professor on a problem or a problem statement that society is facing, and they should be working on developing a structured proposed solution, if not the exact solution, digging from the literature as to what literature already talks about, or what literature already says about a given challenge or a given problem the society is facing, and what gaps are there where you can fill the gap and offer a solution. Now that's ideally to be done, which doesn't happen most of the times in Indian context. And I mean, I should not say Indian context, but world over. If you look at the success rate of scholarship, or the efficacy of scholarship globally in the last 100 years, is less than 20%. They say 80% of the scholarship actually doesn't address any viable problem, or any problem for that matter, doesn't have any relevance for the society. Now, when you look at such a number, we really have to look at what, as a university, we are trying to address. Our PhD programs, if they are designed to ensure that we provide necessary ecosystem to the research scholars under the apprenticeship of senior faculty members, to work with industry or by observing industry It is need not necessarily always collaborating with industry, but it is always good to collaborate with industry, but observing a phenomena across firms or across a set of objects, and then come up with uh, what is the likely solution. Now, 3 years, 5 years, 6 years duration. If you look at earlier PhD programs when we were living in the I would say pre 2000 era, where the technology availability or the access to literature was very limited, a scholar would spend hundreds of man hours or man days in searching for literature, doing a literature review, then hundreds of man hours on data analysis itself, because the tools and techniques or the toolkit available for data analysis was rare and also very complicated. Many a times they would do actually by hand and have records and stuff like that. Now with these two things being eased off, this access to literature is like you are loaded, everything is at your fingertips. So you don't need that kind of a time for literature survey. Second is the kind of toolkits available for data analysis. Most complicated data analysis can also be done in span of a few days, which otherwise would have taken few months or a few years earlier. Now, given these two factors, the duration of PhD program can certainly be relooked at, and the program needs a reimagination. I would say application of design thinking is required in redesigning, reimagining the PhD program of universities across the world, and also in the Indian context, it fits well. As one of the esteemed colleagues just now said, unless we see the impact of the research generated, it's of no use. So we have to really work in tandem with the developments in the industry. Now here there is a dichotomy which we need to really understand uh, before we talk about reimagining a PhD program. While the industry has moved in the last, say, 70 years or 100 years from so-called uh, agrarian to industrial to knowledge, and now we are talking about digital and social. So industry 4.0 to even now we are talking about industry 5.0. While education has stuck in the same structured mold which was given some couple of hundred years ago to the world, and by Macaulay to India, we are stuck up there with very minimal innovation in the last 200 years. Now, while we can say, industry education is in still in 2.0, industry has moved to 5.0 or moving to 5.0 rapidly. We have to catch up with that and match our programs, program delivery model, program durations, and also the assessment model in tandem with the evolution of industry. I think that's where we'll be able to make our PhD program meaningful. Having said
Okay.
that, addressing your second question here, some of the leading research universities across the world, I mean, especially in Australia and New Zealand and US, we see these universities work very, very closely across universities, across disciplines within a university, and also with the industry bodies. It's not just one company, industry associations and industry professional bodies, and from there they pick up the problem statement, work, and then get back. So the interaction between the industry and the universities and across universities is seamlessly arranged as a structured system. It is arranged. I think we should look at a similar model, and we should perhaps take some of these universities as our mentor universities, and try to reimagine and rework on our PhD program. I think these are my opening remarks. I will stop here. Thank you so much, and I'll come back if there are any questions and any
Sure.
follow-up swing that we are going through. Thank you so much, Rajnishji.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll next come to Dr. Rana Singh, and taking cue from what Dr. Jain said about this alliance with these global universities who are encouraging and fostering more research, as well as the industry bodies. So I'll ask Dr. Rana for your opinion on these alliances, both with universities as well as industry bodies, and how are you looking at it to streamline the quality of research? Yes, Dr. Rana, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so my question to you was how would you look at this alliance both with global universities as well as with industry bodies to improve the quality of research? Dr. Rana.
Well, this is a brilliant question. In fact, the alliance with foreign universities as well as with industry bodies has manifold advantages, and we at Sanskriti University, we have been pioneering it in manifold ways. Now, let's talk about international universities. When we collaborate with them, they bring with us on the platter well laid out guidelines, policies, procedures, as well as their years, decades, and centuries of research background behind them, with world class manpower and professors of eminence, brilliance, and academic accomplishments. So, this is first dimension. The second dimension we talk about when we collaborate with the industries, and the consistent partnership with industry academia collaboration enables the university like us. As we at Sanskriti University, we have been partnering with various industry bodies like CII as well as FICCI, then PhD Chamber of Commerce and others. Now it brings to us the opportunity to collaborate with the leading industries and with all their members so that our students can get the first-hand exposure to the industry. Secondly, apart from this, the members from the industry, they can give their valued inputs at periodic intervals to upgrade the curricula on a dynamic basis. Thirdly, we can set up certain labs in association with them so that the students get a simulated lab opportunity to work as if they were working in a real life situation. Fourthly, we have been inviting, like we have signed up a partnership with TCS ION, which has enabled us to get experts from the leading institutions like IITs and IIMs, as well as experts from TCS, which enables the students to get the first-hand live delivery from experts from top-notch institutions as well as from the corporate professionals who are actually having decades of experience as well as who are directly connected to the industry, and they are in the best position to give the students the first-hand exposure as if what is going to be expected from them in the real world. So the most advantageous dimension is that the students get updated curriculum, they get a guaranteed opportunity to work as intern in the industry and to collaborate and to work with some top-notch assignments, with some live challenges in the corporate world. And last but not the least, they get periodic guidance from their mentors from the industry. So they have two mentors, one academic mentor from our university, and the other one is the corporate mentor from the industrial world, who is able to guide and mentor the student to transform them into a well-rounded personality. So now I would like to summarize how both universities as well as the group of industries or industry associations, they enable the university to make sure that they are offering updated curriculum under the guidance and expertise of top-notch corporate professionals, and are able to do industrial research, scientific research. Like we at Sanskriti University, we have been making a step forward towards scientific and industrial research by partnering with Scientific and Industrial Research Organization of the Government of India, CIRO, as well as we have been working towards doing scientific projects with Department of Science and Technology with top-notch scientists and the Ministry of Science and Technology. So it gives the entire academic fraternity an opportunity to work with the doyens of the industry as well as top-notch professionals so that the research gets a catalytic boost and the students get world-class exposure to get a thorough understanding of the knowledge, skills, and competencies so that they become globally employable with the optimum set of knowledge, skills, and competencies. And that's my thought for the day. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, thank you. That's very heartening to note what you're talking about, where the academia, I may say, is most effectively collaborating with industry so as to foster more a culture of industry orientation amongst the academia also. I'll next come to Dr. Sasi Prabha, and it's a similar question in terms of the collaboration both with the industry as well as with other institutions that can be global institutions or even the premium institutions like the IITs in terms of alliances to improve the quality of research, make it more industry oriented. And since technology is what we are talking as a catalyst today, whether there's some sort of technology transfer also happening. So, how is your institute looking at it, and what's your opinion? Man, you are on mute. You're not audible. No, we can't hear you still. No. Okay. Till the this technical difficulty is sorted out, I'll move on to Professor Patanayak with the same question in terms of industry and other institutions. How this collaboration can be done to best improve the research quality, and is there any technology transfer happening? What's your experience and your opinion on that?
So, thank you so much to APAC, and thank you so much. Greetings to my co-panelists. It's actually, I want to slightly move on a different track because I mean, any university is not entirely technology centric, and so I think we need to understand that although this session is about technology, that there are other sciences like the behavioral sciences, humanities, and so on and so forth. My view is that PhD should actually run on a dual track. We should not be actually diluting one or the other. So you should have a track which is entirely PhD focused and research focused, and that's how it happens. And a second track which is an industry focused, where, as my previous speakers have talked about, whether it is a product orientation or something like that, something which makes an impact in society, whether it is resolving a problem which is from the industry. So those are the kinds of issues that we should be taking up, and they can be dealt with very differently. So these two tracks, I think, need to be addressed quite differently. Now, having said that, I'll come now directly to your question about the kind of relationship or what kind of role can other institutions play. And I really think if you look at institutions, this is something that we have actually been asking for a very long time at Centurion University. We are a 10-year-old university, and we have just around us, we have some of the real apex institutions of the country. IIT is next door, and then we have NICER, which is next door. So we have a lot of these in triple IT, and we keep saying that what is it, what kind of role can they do? And we have gone to a lot of them and actually said that, look, we are a fledgling institution. We would like you to mentor us. Please tell us what it is that we can do. So that is the way I think critically, if some of these institutions of eminence decide on actually adopting some smaller institutions and saying that okay, we will mentor them, only then can we see it as a win-win situation for all. The established institutions will also gain, the upcoming institutions will also benefit from this. So I think this is critically one of the aspects which needs to be looked at. I think in terms of industry collaboration itself, there is a lot of things that we talk about, whether it is, and we at Centurion University have a lot of partnerships because we are a skill university. So we have a lot of partnerships with industry, and we work very closely with industry. But at the end of the day, as one of our previous speakers said, it's actually defining the problem, which is sometimes the major issue, whether it is for the industry or for the academic institution. What is the problem that we're trying to address? And I think that needs to be clarified at both ends. Only then can we actually forge ahead and try to actually see what it is that each can contribute to the other, in a kind of symbiotic relationship. So that is what is very critical when it comes to whether it is higher degrees, whether it is even at a postgraduate level or an undergraduate level. What is it that an industry can play a very important role? We are talking, for example, of different kinds of certifications that our students can undertake for industry, so that helps them eventually when they seek employment, because they've got an industry related certification. We have industries who are actually coming and offering courses to us. So those are the kinds of things which are happening at very very many different levels, which then can actually enable students and give them a better chance in life. And that's what we are looking at. But when you come to higher degrees, and higher degrees is an entirely different ballpark. Higher degrees is another is an area where actually an individual is working on their own. It is not as if it is as a group. They're working on their own. I have asked a lot of my faculty who are undertaking PhD, or our full-time scholars who are undertaking PhD, why are you not product focused? And they say that, look, a PhD is actually 3 years, and 3 years is not enough to develop a product. So there are, on the one hand, you are talking of collapsing the time frame, but actually what might be required is expanding the time frame. So that I think we need to really understand what it is that is required before we kind of come and very quickly conclude that this is the way to go. So I think understanding the problem itself is a big challenge. And when you start looking at different areas, then it becomes an even bigger challenge. I'm very inclined to say that, as a last word, that we should keep this dual track. We should not kind of collapse the PhD program altogether and say that this is what we want the PhD program to be, but we should have a track which is entirely research focused, and we should have one which is an industry related. And this is there across the world. I'm not talking about something which is new. They have these programs in different parts of the world where it doesn't go as a PhD program. For example, Australia, I know, for business management actually has a DBA program, which is a doctorate in business administration, which is not a PhD, but it kind of is actually addressing an industry problem, and it is has different requirements. So I think we can think of a dual track like that. I think that will help us a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Patnaik. So you mentioned.
Sir, am I audible now, sir? Am I
Yeah,
audible
yeah,
now?
coming to
Okay.
you.
Okay. Okay.
Professor Patnaik, where you mentioned about this dual track concept, and which is exactly as you correctly said, it's not a new phenomena, and globally it's there in many. So one focus on industry, one track focuses on industry, one more on the research. And in fact, you correctly mentioned there's a dichotomy. Sometimes some of the PhDs, we need not collapse the time, rather we need to expand it. So let's see if we can discuss this further. I'll come
Other
to
good. Yes, two good.
Dr. Shashi Prabha with the
Yes, sir.
same question which I had posed earlier. And
Yeah.
your answers,
Yes.
please.
Yes, sir. So very good afternoon to my co-panelist. So sorry for the technical glitch. I do not know how it has happened. Okay. And all the participants and the organizers. So the question is a very, very interesting question. It is a very need because the research is going in different directions in throughout the world. Particularly in India, the kind of research, academic research, which is happening in the institutions are not on par with the developed countries. Because the institutions nowadays, the board of research of the institutions are bothered about the number of publications which is coming out of this research program. So more than that, whether really the student have did a research and they innovated something, it's a question mark. So what we are doing is we continuously strive on the quality of research. So apart from this number of publications, uh, our board of research has got stringent norms. That means they should have at least 2 publications in Web of Science, that is SCA index journals, and they should have at least 2 in Scopus index journals and 1 conference proceeding. This is a minimum criteria a candidate should complete before completing her research or his research as a Tevama. The reason is that at least through this mechanism, we are trying to improve the quality of research. So if a paper has got a real innovative work, only then it will be published in SC index journals. That is one of our small effort to improve the quality of research in our institution. Apart from this, through collaborations. So my, as a Vice Chancellor of the institutions, we have to do concentrate, as the question is very, very right, whether we are involving our research scholars in industry projects or not. So we do talking about involving our undergraduate students and postgraduate students in industries and internship industry projects like that. So we have not thinking about involving our research scholars, both part-time and full-time research scholars in the industry-oriented projects. So we are doing a lot of consultancy activities with industries. So normally what we are doing, we'll be involving our student, UG and PG students in our in those projects. So instead of that, we have to involve researchers. So now the full-time scholars, they are totally in the control of the institutions, so we can easily involve the industry full-time scholars in those projects. But the part-time scholars, the part-time PhD is, the quality of part-time PhD is really a question mark only, because they are interested in improving their qualification in order to pursue a good position in their job, or not to get promotions, in order to get increments. In that aspects only people are working. So my humble request is, any institution should invite good quality students. They should have a screening mechanism to recruit or to admit students for the PhD program as a full-time scholars. We do follow that because we have a stringent test, aptitude test, followed by the presentation and then discussions, and then only we are shortlisting these full-time scholars, and we are paying good on par with the government institutions. Only then we can able to attract good quality students for the full-time PhD. So this way we can able to improve this research or research ecosystem in the institutions. And apart from that, we are sending our own part-time students and the full-time scholars to our partner institutions through some of the funding programs. As 6 months, as a some through our partnering mentors, we are allowing them to do 6 months to 1 year in other partner institutions. So thereby we are able to get the international collaborations, and we could able to produce quality scholars from the institutions. So this is our the tactics what we are following in our institution. Because, and apart from the scholars, we are also sending the mentors, the faculty, scientists, or the professors. We are sending to the foreign institutions to pursue or to continue their research in 1 year or 2 year under deputation. So thereby they are also getting good exposure with the international standards. They are coming out and they are guiding the students in a efficient way. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Dr. Shashi Prabha. So, you mentioned a very innovative tactics, if I may say, in terms of these full-time scholars and sort of recruiting them to help improve the quality. I'll next come to Dr. Sendil Kumar. And my question is a slight variation on this. We are talking about how the industry can collaborate.
वहाँ भैया
How,
थोड़ा जाम तो नहीं है? हाँ? बादशाह है भैया.
hello? Yeah, Dr. Sendil Kumar, there's some
इतना गाड़ी ड्राइवर. संख्या से गाड़ी चला रहा हूँ.
hello, there's some
यार मैं मार्क
Dr. Rana Singh is unmuted.
okay. Dr. Rana, can you mute? Yeah, thank you. So, Dr. Sendil, the question is in terms of this industry collaboration we talked about. So, how can one, in terms of academic institutions taking help of industry to have centers of excellences or incubation centers? That's one. And the second is when you're talking about research, along with research, one critical thing is experiential learning for the students. So, how can industry professionals get more involved with the academia to help improve this experiential learning? And how can more of these center of excellences and incubation centers come up that can really help the academia? What's your opinion?
Thank you, Rajneesh, and good evening, all panelists over here. Let me talk about the topic, technology catalyst for active professional learning, research and development. No, the universities should seek the industries association for translational research, including scale-up studies and commercialization of their knowledge base. On the other hand, industries, especially the financially compromised one, look forward academia for solving their R&D problems to remain competitive, both at the global as well as the local level. Further, the academia welcomes the industry association as it provides an opportunity to work on real-life situation. In addition, active engagement of industry personnel in academic activities, along with exposure to students and research scholars to industrial settings through internship, help in development of desired skill set. Coming back to your question about the role being played by incubators and the center of excellence in academic institutions that are being run by the industry. The industry can accelerate translational research by leveraging the knowledge base from universities to remain competitive. Academic institutions gain the following through the incubators and COIs run by the industry. Number one, increased flow of financial resources for the research activities, opportunity to work on relevant industrial problem, identification of research areas interest to industry, enhanced capacity to train manpower better aligned to the industry needs, internship opportunities rightly said by the Dr. Sati Prabha and Patnaik madam, like we need to have internship opportunities as well as enhanced employment opportunities for the students, development of courses and curriculum with the industry inputs, engaging the industry personnel for teaching assignments as practice track faculty. In this way, the incubators and center of excellence make students and researchers become job providers instead of job seekers and contribute to the socio-economic development of the nations. Over to you, Rajneesh.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I come to Mr. Devi Prasad Boral. So you have heard all the panelists speak about in terms of some of the initiatives their institutions have undertaken, and generally there have been a lot of innovative opinions and ideas on how we should look at improving the quality of research. Now, from an industry perspective, how would you suggest industry should associate with these institutions to help foster a more conducive environment for research and at the same time improve the, as Professor Patnaik emphasized, we should also look at improving the quality of the research. So keeping both the academic and the industry focus in mind, how would you suggest industry should associate with the institutions?
Yep. Thank you for giving the opportunity to talk about this. It's a fantastic question. It's probably a very, very relevant question in the current segment, especially I come from a startup where we have grown really, really well in last 3 years. And we have a lot of stories that you might have seen, a lot of startups becoming unicorn in India. But if you compare to India, where this trend is very hugely getting initiated in the Indian startup ecosystem, but if I compare it to Silicon Valley in US or something like UK, but let's take an example of US, right? To answer your questions directly, point to point, I'll give you an example. Like I'm a Stanford alumni, but when if I go to the Stanford and I see the kind of money that industries give them to do research, it's in billion of dollars, right? So if you look at the Stanford Business School, which has of course a very less number, which is very renowned, but what Stanford's technology division, especially the technology section of it, did to Silicon Valley, probably nobody has done that in the entire world, to one country. And that doesn't come just because people actually did it itself, because there are a lot of fuel that went into actually doing quality research first of all, and then doing innovative research. And when we talk about quality, quality is probably the most expensive thing in the world. That's what my personal belief is. If you're talking about quality, you have to put a lot of heavy money into the research, and that is what like companies like Google and Microsoft and Apple's are doing in the Stanford's tech sector. I mean, it funded really, really heavily. There are a lot of research that happens in closed rooms that people don't know, because protecting IP and ideas at a research level is very, very important to do. But coming to India's perspective, I think if let's say we become a unicorn, FinancePay becomes a unicorn in 2 years, I mean, we have a plan to actually put 10 to 15% of the money into this sector. So we have a vision, but I'm not sure what other people are doing in this country. Like there are like more than 50 unicorns in the country right now who have a lot of money, and they are probably spending it at a different area rather than doing research. And it may be because in India all the startups are just commodity startups, right? So you have e-commerce startups, I mean companies like Big Basket, Groffer, and all those. And there are few startups which are basically in the defense space which are coming. If I talk about defense sector, where Indian startups are right now doing, none of them are unicorn, of course, because nobody is putting money there. But if they get huge money, I think that's where the heavy demand of research will come, right? And once the industry demand comes from research side, and if industry is putting money into good institutes like IITs, and not only IITs, there are Tata Fundamental Research Institute, and there are a couple of more, and CISR also, what they have done in terms of research, I don't think even IITs have done or contributed in research what these institutes has done to this country, right? In terms of pure research I'm talking about. So we would love to put money once we basically get a bigger amount of money for sure. And if we are looking for quality research, money has to be there. Second thing is basically the question that we should ask, what areas we should research, okay? I mean, I would leave apart the government sector, because I'm answering the question from an industry perspective. But I think government also needs to put heavy money into research to basically create a bigger economy with a bigger vision. But let's keep that aside. Coming to industry, basically, I see the way India is progressing right now in terms of the way we are creating new companies and making bigger companies, and the way we are making impact in the world. One of the examples is Facebook. Would not call it as like an innovative product in the technology space, but at least they have done something where they opened it in Nasdaq, listed in Nasdaq now. So you may see many companies doing that, and a lot of money will come into those companies. I would urge, people are not here from industry. If they would have been there, I would urge that they put some amount of money basically into research, because the moment you do quality research, you can actually bring innovative product. The moment you do innovation in products, that is where you can actually charge premium to your customer from your products that you are delivering, right? And that's a longer vision. So if we keep that longer vision and we put money, I think we as a country can do great. And that's what would be my view, unless I have not answered anything that you asked.
Okay, so thanks. So basically, obviously, one view is a lot of funding required to essentially improve the quality of research, and that can be industry can play a role, but as you obviously mentioned, government is an important stakeholder in that ecosystem, and adequate funding should be there. Okay, so now we have spoken to each of the panelists and heard about some innovative concepts, ideas, opinions. So one area what we would like to talk about now is and which none of us can avoid, what has happened over the last 1.5 years, the pandemic situation, keeping in mind even going forward. We never know. Sometimes there is a stop and start, whether another wave would come or not. And academic institutions, when they were in the process of reopening across different states, suddenly they may get shut again. And you never know. It might be a stop and start game. And so ultimately, uh, whether we like it or not, a blended learning kind of model is likely to stay there. And we are very unlikely to ever go back to exactly the situation that was in the pre pandemic days. So, my now question is, in the topic which we are talking about, how technology can help foster the research ecosystem. And then we are talking about a blended learning model. So, how the two would sort of coexist there? What would be the impact on research quality in this blended learning model? And I'll come to each panelist, but for paucity of time, only 2 minutes each to each panelist. Restricted answer to 2 minutes. The focus on basically research in new normal, if I may say. And I'll start with you, Dr. Khara.
Thank you. This blended learning, very specific to research. I think the approach, and then blended learning for normal teaching learning, there will be little difference. Because usually in easy UG or PG programs where it is unavailable, students are unable to come to the class, so you need to conduct the blended learning where a lot of contents are delivered, and also some kinds of things they are supposed to do in campus, or learning by doing the things can be managed using software or virtual tools to the most of the extent, except few things. But as so far as the PhD research is concerned, this will be more serious. So basically, the PhD scholars, they are working specifically the medical, pharmacy, and your engineering, science, and all other domains, dental and medical science as well. Lot of the experiments, and then they need to work with the apparatus and do some experiments, and then use some technology, and their involvement, the physical involvement, is very, very important. Say for example, here one lab we have established, say, artificial intelligence based medical imaging and forensic. So there you have no large medical data, which is very precious data inside the hospital. And on that, if we put the AI, and then some diagnostic models can be developed. So that's a multidisciplinary research. Somebody using the data analytics, somebody data, somebody understanding and all these statistical aspects, and then putting some algorithms, and somebody working in algorithm, and somebody trying to put some software, developing software, and some people are also doing some analytical model on that. So mostly in this type of research, it is possible to share the server, and people can, some part of this can work from the home. But unlikely where in say solar system or biomedical research lab or virus research lab, and some other research labs are also there, where the physical involvement and dealing with the materials and the chemicals and doing the experiments, observe the experiments. So this is very, very important. So this is
Okay,
unavoidable. Blended will be very, very difficult. I think it
sure.
depends. It depends. But still, I will say that compared to the normal teaching learning in PhD research, physical involvement we need to consider very seriously. This is my point.
Sure. Understand. So basically, you are saying in many of the streams of research, physical involvement is inevitable. So, Dr. Ahmed, I'll come to you. Same question, and as I mentioned, please restrict to 2 minutes each. Uh, we are running short of time.
Thank you, Rajnish, for asking very relevant question that how during pandemic or in the normal situation, how we can understand that the technology can help in the blended model for the research. So, as mentioned by Dr. Khara, I'm in agreement with him that there are some of the areas, some of the research must have the physical kind of the presence, like the if experiment required in the laboratory for the experimental research for scientific research, then you have to be in the laboratory at the only possible in the physical mode. You cannot do no in the online mode. But there are social sciences and humanities where the mostly you are depending on data analysis and data collection that you can do by the online mode. And also for collecting data, now we have the remote access software, we have a lot of online journals. You can easily also collect data, no need to go to physical library, accessing the books. The next thing is that regarding this kind of there's challenges to really bifurcate that what kind of research can be done in the online mode, what can be done in the physical mode. So, but second thing is that regarding the coursework. So, coursework is a basic component for any kind of the PhD work. The coursework can easily be done in the online mode because you have to pass certain courses and they have some competency for research that can be done in the online mode. Even the evaluation of the coursework can be done in the online mode. Regarding this, the data collection, it can be a good support because earlier it was not possible to collect data by online. You have to go to visit physically, but now there are a lot of things can be done online by use of the AI. AI will help you to locate the data directly, and no need to go to 100 pages. You just write down by support of AI. You can filter out the correct direct information. So at least the use of technology will be supporting you for fast collection of data, real data you can collect. No need to just go for the mining and wasting your time. So there are a lot of support is there, and it can be great support to the researchers for reducing their time, wasting their time. They can use technology for those areas where it is possible. So
Okay.
I think that it will be great support for researchers if you utilize the blended model for the research.
Sure. Thank you. So basically, you are suggesting using technologies like AI or otherwise, at least for areas where it is possible to do the research online. Dr. Jain, I'll come to you. Your opinion on this, your 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, and I think I can't agree more than with both Professor Khare and Professor Ahmad that research is amenable to both online and offline, on campus and off campus modes. So blended is going to be the theme of future learning process or future research process. We like it or not, we all have to evolve to that level. Now, I mean, I'm reminded of one project which open source community has executed way back in 2000, 2002. There's a project called OSCAR, OSCAR, where open source community has designed a car. So designing an automobile with the complete tech specs and material specifications by a loosely connected, designers across the world. Similarly, I'm also reminded of a project which is undertaken by Renault 15 years, 13 years ago when they were contemplating on increasing their presence in Asian continent. Frugal innovation they wanted to drive in terms of developing low-cost cars without compromising on quality. Now they have engaged an army of researchers from the Asian continent or the Asian region to work in collaboration with their European counterpart. And this was done in a completely online mode, where tinkering lab sessions were organized in their with their partner in India as well as in Malaysia. Now, I mean, some of these projects are I would say shining examples of what industry can do using technology or leveraging technology in terms of bringing about innovation, more practical innovations in the sense product based or service based. Same thing can be replicated in academic innovation or academic research also. And that's my opinion. And I would say the theme of future would be blended. It has to be blended.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Rana, your opinion on this? You're on mute.
Thanks a
You're
lot
on
for
mute.
this brilliant question. In fact, we at universities, this is the need of the hour to focus on a holistic approach towards conducting research on all kinds, including academic research, translational research, interdisciplinary research, empirical research, industrial research, as well as scientific research. And in the process, one most important aspect which needs to be taken care of is to have consistent focus on having the ethics committee in place within the university. That's one. Secondly, the focus on having some of the latest softwares, especially the statistical softwares which we talk about, like SPSS, SysStat, SAS, MATLAB, and all other relevant statistical and mathematical softwares which can enable the researchers to really focus on both empirical as well as the secondary research as well. More so, we need to have a strong ecosystem to focus on getting funded research, especially from the corporate world as well as from the government, so that they are able to focus more on conducting real life research in collaboration with the corporate world. So to conclude, I would say the need of the hour is to focus on technology enabled research by concerted focus of creating an ecosystem of academicians, researchers, and people from the industry, so that we are able to deliver smart research outcomes, specific, measurable, achievable, as well as time bound, realistic. So we should focus on accomplishing smart outcomes in the area of research. Thank you, and that's all from my side.
Thank you. Professor Patanaik, I'll come to you next. Your opinion. You are on mute.
Thank you so much. I'm inclined to agree with Professor Khara because I think it is what is right. What I think is actually when we look at the new normal, all of it cannot be blended. Some of it has to be physically done, and we must recognize. Unless we recognize this, I think somewhere we're all joining the bandwagon and saying blended, blended, blended. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, and if it does happen, I think it's going to be detrimental. So it should not happen. We should actually see that there are elements of research which are physically carried out, and I think it is the responsibility of universities to actually encourage. And I'll just put in one line here at Centurion. What we have done is we have started our own enterprises, and some of them were actually student started, incubated by us. So we are actually now into production, and I think that's where a lot of research can focus, because there are already enterprises which exist in the university. So you don't need to go out and look for it. These are regular industries. We actually produce transformers. We are now looking at collaborating with a global institution to look at developing smart transformers. So if that is the case, then it has to be, yes, while some elements of it can be blended, You can talk to your counterparts overseas in a blended mode. But at the end of the day, what is the outcome of that research? It has to be done physically. And the prototypes and everything has to be developed. And as long as that has to be done, we can use artificial intelligence for simulation and all those kinds of things. But eventually, if you are looking at a product, then it has to be physical. And I think that is my last 2 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sasi Prabha.
Yes, sir.
Your
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. So this question is also a interesting question. Blended research. So we are telling about blended learning. So blended research should also, now that is only happening. That is also needed, because now with the use of microfluidic technology, the wet labs are coming in lab and chip. So we have to have more manufacturing sectors to develop more lab on chip for different applications. Even the animal studies can be done with the use of microfluidic lab on chip kits. So like that, nowadays the research technology is also enabling research in bringing the results of the research in a faster way. So technology is actually playing a huge role in accelerating the research. So in terms of reading, or in terms of seeing the research articles or literatures, so people can able to easily watch their with the use of remote access, they can access any kind of journals at their home itself. So that literature survey they can able to do at any time, at any place. Only the wet lab activities. So there are certain activities we need to do it in the laboratories, wet labs. That wet lab activities are also compensated with the use of this lab on chip technologies that is in place. Nowadays, the India is also, in the Indian research institutions also trying to get those kits now, which is little costly nowadays. But if the India is also manufacturing those kind of microfluidic chips, that is a lab on chip kits, they can able to easily will be available to all the research who are doing the wet lab experiments also. So as madam was telling, Batnaik madam was telling, so end of the research, if it is engineering research, if they are coming out with a prototype or as a product, that needs a physical environment. There needs a 3D printers or other accessories to bring out as a product. So blended research is also possible. So technologies are enabling the researchers to do blended research. And one of the positive thing is that it is actually accelerating the research. The research which is happening for 2 years can be done within 1 year with the use of bioinformatics. So all those animal studies or drug discovery studies, whatever studies the researchers are doing, now it is with the use of simulation, they can able to bring down the period to significantly. They can bring out the period, even the 1 year to 6 months or 2 years to 1 year. So that is now itself it is possible. So the scientists
sure.
are moving towards in doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sendil. Your opinion.
It's a good question, but no, I completely agree with the Dr. Kara and Dr. Patnaik. Being Health Sciences University, the blended learning is it's a questionable one because everything hands-on and experimental learning should be there. So maybe like for the data analytics where you can use this SPSS software or something like you can use that on then review of literatures and references, all those things we can do it. But the research should take place in a offline mode, not in online mode. So this is my opinion.
Thank you. So there is almost a consensus in terms of that most of the research still needs to be done in the physical mode. So, Devi Prasad, you have literally the last word on this. What's your opinion here?
Yeah, thank you for keeping me last. I have a very strong view. So let me I will go one more step ahead on top of the question. It's a fantastic question, but my view is whether people agree or not, blending research is going to happen. So a few years back, I'll give an example. When people are talking about executive execution, the people which are happening in upgrade and all those things, people putting their money to learn, right? Rather than basically companies giving money for executive education, which was a norm 10 years back. That has changed now. So simulation, artificial intelligence, everything will come into picture. But I agree with Supriya Madam and other people also that the final product has to be in a physical environment. For example, laser technology, robotics research, the final product has to be basically in a physical environment. But what you can do, you can cut down the time. Let's say 70% of time or 60% of time doing it via simulation and all that stuff, right? But my point of view, people who are watching this video or who may watch after, my view is I want to see a revolution in this country where people are not basically being asked to do research, but people go to do research at their own interest. So, for example, people are working in MNCs and all those. They say, for example, let's say they have done 2 years of work, right? And they have developed something. They go and validate with the institute saying that, okay, 5 years is the research period. I have already worked three years working on this. You validate, accept it, whether I can go get a PhD degree or not in 1 year or not, right? So if that kind of enthusiasm is coming from the citizens of this country and people are putting money, that is why I gave the example of upgrade. If that kind of revolution happens, now this country can disrupt the entire world. That was my initial last view, actually. Thank you.
Thank you. That's quite but ultimately, I think even partially much of your statement sort of agreed with the general consensus that we need to have a blended model where the physical part of it still remains, if I may say, the principal component of research. While we can do some of the actions by simulation and those, etc., but physical part is still the critical component of research. Great. We had a great interactive discussion. So I thank all the panelists, Dr. Khara, Dr. Ahmed, Dr. Jain, Dr. Rana, Professor Patanak, Dr. Shashi Prabha, Dr. Senil Kumar, and Devi Prasad for making this a wonderful discussion. So we will be bringing out the report of this and share with each of you. And some of the people, more than 3,000 people were watching this live, and those who will be watching it later also. I'm sure they will look at emulating some of these practices in their institutions, and that will finally measure the success of the discussion today. Thanks to all the panelists again, wishing you all a good evening, and thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Rajni.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajni.